Hello, Froggy here, and today I'll be showing you how to get to the end of the Duality dungeon without doing any of the encounters. From time to time I'll be showing you side routes, but for the main one we'll be using the interdimensional res breach, and we'll need an ally to stay in the starting area.
Now go. Time is of the essence. I will be with you from afar.
Helping us out today with the IRB is Bachmanetti. He will be helping us from afar. It turns out the end of Duality is in pretty much the same place as the beginning, although it is in a different load, so we still have a place to go. First thing you're going to want to do is die so that you have a place to send your ghost to for the IRB. When you hit this initial bell, you want to jump into the air. This isn't strictly speaking necessary, but it will allow us to height gain with sword flying, and that will skip a little bit of this. Should take you about 5 or 6 swings if you're timing it well. We can get away on this main route without using any stasis climbing, although some of the side things I'll be showing do use that. Just want to jump up the side here, and we can go ahead and skip to this top bell up here. You will have to fight some enemies, so make sure you're not too under-leveled here. Also, hitting the bell is going to kill your ally. Well, that just helps them set their IRB point in case they're joining you later. After you clear out enough enemies to feel comfortable, you'll want to make your way to this bell and move forwards. I'll be showing you 2 ways to get out of map around here. The first uses a little bell trick that you may have run into. You can leave the bell after ringing it. JD3 showed me that it's much easier to do this using a sword. Just swing in once and out twice. The next time you enter a bell tube, you'll instantly be teleported back into the overworld. Now we're just going to climb out of map in here. Naturally, if you're doing the IRB route, you should skip this bit and just go with the second out of map that I'll show you. I'm just going to stasis climb up the side here. So you'll want to have your stasis climbing here set up if you're going this way. And with the power of editing, this climb is fairly fast. Though it's not all that bad without the speed up. It only took about 7 stasis grenades for me to make my way to the top. So a relatively short climb in the scheme of things. You can skip climbing the rest of the way by dipping into this hole. You probably don't need this stasis nade to get up if you sword fly up the rest of the way. You can see the top of a bell tube there. Mostly, we're just here for the view. There's a very nice red cloudscape as the skybox of the Nightmare Realm. It's pretty neat. And we can just jump into this tube to get teleported out of map. Of course, that entire bit is quite unnecessary. Gerbsnail showed me that there is a very convenient hole located right here. You'll want to head to the left to continue further in. We'll be heading underneath that cylindrical area next. But what if we were to turn right instead? There's a lot of intangible ground, but if you fall down, you can just use a stasis nade to climb right back up. Mildly inconvenient, but certainly not the end of the world. it's pretty easy to maneuver around the outside of the first zone. Of course, you're still in a darkness zone, so you'll want to be a bit careful. Even if you have an ally with you, there is a 40-second cooldown on your respawn. You can see that the starting area is actually right next to where you teleport in. I would have thought that maybe it would be high up in the sky, but that isn't actually the case. So you may have noticed the flash there. In this dark lighting in between the two, you can see both of the nightmare realms, which is pretty neat. I'm just gonna get back to the outside of the tribute hall area there. And see the drop point. We can't easily get out of map here because there is a map ceiling that prevents you from getting outside of the regular tribute hall area. Funnily enough, that barrier is missing in the mission end version. You may remember the outside of the tribute hall from back when we last had access to it. We could use the pocket finisher glitch, which has since been patched, to breach through the wall. There's a lot of sort of crufty stuff attached to it now. A lot of it is intangible. We haven't been able to find a funnel to the Nightmare Realms here just yet, but we have been able to in all of the other zones. Anyways, let's continue. You're going to want to hug the underside of this room and drop with the tube in the middle. We'll be following the tried and tested principle of acting like you belong. As long as you follow roughly the path that the game expects you to, you're generally safe from kill barriers. Going to be dropping underneath here. If you go to any of the edges, you'll die immediately, but if you drop through one of the holes in the floor, you can make your way over to the tube and keep falling. We're pretty much at the next load zone here. Just need to drop down onto that hallway and we'll hit it. Welcome to Ever Downward. From here, we're just going to climb up so we can fly over the top of the area. You can just go straight for the center, but then you'll have to do a little bit of stasis climbing, and it's always nice to avoid that when you can. We don't even have to use any sword ammo here. The upcoming part can be a little bit tricky. Oh hey, it's our good old friends, the chess pieces. This little slope downwards is a lot safer out of map than in map. You can just gracefully float down. There are some tricky death barriers that you'll want to look out for, especially since if you're doing the IRB route, any deaths mean a reset. But before we do that, let's take a peek over here. The Nightmare Realm in front of me here is the one for the statue puzzle. And if you look back there, you can see the other one you can get some truly remarkable views from out of map in Duality. If we make our way over here, you'll eventually run into a pushback. And if you drop directly in between the two bubbles, you'll find a tunnel that leads in. Just heavy swing when you're about this height, and you'll find yourself able to fly forwards. Unfortunately, there is a turn back, so you would have to do some skating or some sort of speed strat if you actually want to make it through. If you want to have someone join you here, there is luckily an easy way for them to join you out of map, right at the default spawn. There's actually a lot of holes kind of like this one if you look along the wall there. And now we're out, back where we were at the beginning of this zone. Anyways, let's get back to the main route. We're coming up on a tricky death barrier, so if you don't want to have to restart the IRB route, you'll want to pay attention at this point. If we try to directly go to the end there, you will have a bad time. Instead, you want to go left until the lighting changes. Then you can go forwards without any issues. You could, of course, do a blink through that death barrier as well, but that's a bit hard to do on Titan, and being on Titan is just so nice for out-of-map shenanigans. We're pretty much at the end of the IRB route. The only thing left to do is to die to the load zone. Gerbsnail found a nice way to hit the load, and it's not that difficult to die to it as well. We're just going to dip underneath here and sword fly back up onto these little rubble piles. You'll want to jump on the one to the left and crouch close to the left side and just walk into the... Well, that didn't kill us this time, but no big deal. We can just try again. Just fly around the side here, and there'll be a handy little staircase of rubbish to climb up. The load zone heading backwards is pretty easy to hit. It's pretty easy to climb up to as well. A lot of little pillars make climbing that distance particularly easy. You can see there is in fact the copy of the tribute hall exactly where the other one was. Just gotta hit the load. There we go. Now we can try that again. Just making my way back to the little entrance. You could of course just load in normally walking in there, but that isn't what we're aiming to do right now. Almost messed it up there. And let's give that another go. And there we have it. Now I just need to wait for Bachnetti to kill all the enemies just before the first encounter, which will trigger the Autorez. But in the meantime, let's go check out the final zone. If you're a little tricksy, you can actually hit the bell up here without leaving this platform. It is pretty handy for skipping the first bit. From here you can climb up and continue with the next spell. I'll be showing you how to get out of map, but for that we actually want to go down to this one. So that little skip was entirely useless here. Going to go ahead and do the sword trick here again for convenience. And now we're going to be hitting the top of that tube. You could try to do this by just jumping after shooting the veil, but this way is very easy and consistent. And now you can see that we are out of the map. I've been able to make it all the way to the Caiatl encounter from out of map here. But there are fun things to see, and you can fall into a funnel to the nightmare realms below from here. Although, once again, there is the strangeness in getting to them. Heading back to the bell, we can get outside of this nightmare realm by heading forwards a little bit. Just gotta make our way over to the little window over here that leads to the chute to the next area. It is another one of those deadly little drops. My mouse was acting up a bit, so I wasn't able to hold block. But you can also survive by swinging your sword or doing a shoulder charge or something near the bottom. We're going to be heading over to about the walkway that you would head into the Caiatl boss fight from. I did a lot of trial and error to find the right place to be when you hit the bell to get outside of map in the Nightmare Realm. If you're too far away, you'll actually be outside of the box, or you'll end up in the box pull and just slam into the wall or something. I'm just going to climb up onto that beam up there. Bit of stasis climbing. Not too interesting, it was just skipping right through it. And this is a bit sensitive, so I would recommend getting on the upper part here. And now I just have to wait for Bach to hit the bell. And there we go. Safely outside of the map. I wasn't really able to find all that much that I could get to from out here, but it still is neat to be here at all. It's a bit aggressive on the death barriers, but if you're careful you can move around a bit. I do enjoy the crimson shader on the walls here. When you find it on terrain, you can sometimes see a gray corner. I like these little cubbies here. But not the top of it. There is another pretty neat thing, and it doesn't require you to go out of map at all. It turns out that Caiatl is actually around in this room. And grab a flag if you need the ammo. And yeah, here she is, just sitting here all immune. Now she does growl a bit. You can also push her a little bit here and there, but she often jumps back. Anyways, let's go see where that IRB put us. Just as a reminder, the Autorez occurs when you kill the last enemy to open the way to first encounter. There we go. I'm now in the mission end version of the Tribute Hall. Normally you'd have a pretty tight time limit to look around here. But since we did a sequence break to get here, we have all the time we could ever want. And since there's no darkness zone here, and the death exclusion zone is currently 0, we can safely generate sword ammo without worrying about going back to the default. It would be a little difficult to get back here after all. Just gonna do that once again, and we're back at full. You may be wondering why you would go through all the effort to get to an identical copy of the tribute hall. There is, however, one very important difference. This copy of the tribute hall does not have a map ceiling. That means we can climb all the way up on... Oh. If I jump on this first, we can climb all the way up to the top. And it turns out that there is a large hole on the side here. I did this in the mission end version and was able to get some pretty nice views, so I figured I would come back here and see what I could find. First, let's head over to the back of the Caiatl boss room. There's a turn-back timer that prevents you from going out that way during the boss itself, and there's a death barrier behind it. But maybe it's a thin death barrier and we can get behind there. Plus, worst case, we get a pretty nice view as we go. That area is very reminiscent of the entrance to the throne encounter in Leviathan with the purple goop going up it. It'll be interesting to see if we can see any more of that out here. I just gotta gently fall down. It's pretty much blocked off here. And there's the death barrier. Alas. Bit of a long flight, so I don't think I'm gonna try that one again, but maybe you'll fare better. One other interesting thing that I saw out this way is a little speck that's outside of both of the Nightmare Realm bubbles. Let's go see what that is. We can conserve a good deal of sword ammo by just kind of slowing our fall. Sword flying without the sword. Very hard to judge the size of that, but it is a reasonably large balcony-like thing just jutting out of empty space. I wonder what this is from or what it's for. But at least it gives us a pretty nice view. Well, we've come all this way. We might as well see if we can get into the Nightmare Realm itself. Since we're already out of the box, it should be a lot easier to approach than when we go through the funnel. Hopefully, anyways. But we'll find out in a moment. Feels like we're still above the box pull, so I'm anticipating an easy landing. We should be right above. That might have been a little bit of a pull. We didn't get a turn back though, so an easy landing. And here we are, the Caiatl Nightmare Boss Arena. Wouldn't normally be able to get here without doing the dungeon. I hope you enjoyed the exploration. A little bit of a bonus here. You can still do backtracking, it's just a lot more annoying. You'll want to cover your spawn point with stasis and then jump off the map or otherwise die without touching the ground. You can repeat this, of course, to continue moving backwards, but without the death exclusion zone, you're going to have to invalidate every individual spawn you set. So, if you plan on doing this, I would advise avoiding touching the ground whenever you can to have fewer points to remove. You'll want to use a mask if you want to die mid-air, because otherwise that can get a little bit tricky. I touched the ground twice up here, so one more to go. Hopefully that didn't set a new point. And there we go. Back to the mystery shelf. Well, I hope you managed to get out here yourself and enjoy exploring Duality.